Good afternoon. Everyone enjoying Imagine?
Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got a wonderful session right now. There's lots of topics to do with automation that I love. This is definitely one of them, the topic of scaling an automation program. I think you don't have to be involved in automation very long before you discover that the challenges are just different as you scale. The challenges you have when you have 5 or 10 automations are different than when you have 50, different when you have 100. And my friends here can talk about that at length. So very, very excited to be with you. My name is Mark Goodere. I'm the Director of Automation and Business Transformation for Automation Anywhere. And what that basically means is that I lead our Automation Center of Excellence for Automation Anywhere. Maybe some of you didn't know that we actually have our own automation program, but we are drinking our own champagne and automating our own company. So I've got some friends with me, and we'll do some introductions in just one moment. But first, just need to share one slide as a little bit of a throwback to the keynote today. If we can bring up the first slide. Maybe back one. Too much. Back. Other direction.
No, 4.
Forward one? Maybe we don't have it. Okay. So for those of you that were involved in the keynote earlier today, I just wanted to remind you that Automation Anywhere is the automation success platform. Hopefully you were all inspired by seeing that new functionality that's coming today. Those of us that have been with the company for a while are very, very excited about it. That automation success platform is designed to empower all of us to be able to innovate, adapt, and scale with automation, and basically win in the automation economy. The platform offers a series of solutions that connect automation to the employee experience. If you notice all the functionality, all the focus around embedded automation, that's really about connecting with us as people. And we can actually accelerate automation in the systems that we work. Again, those of us that have been with the company for a long time, it's amazing just to see that in some cases you don't even need to leave your business system anymore. So we have a portfolio of intelligent automation apps to empower citizen developers, COE managers, and every automator in between, and all built on a platform built for scale and trust. So hopefully that vision excites you as much as it does for us. And with that, we'll do some introductions. Maybe we'll go down and each one of you can give a quick introduction, name, rank, and serial number. That would be great.
Sure. So hi, everybody. I'm Donald Bunch. I've worked at Mars for just about, thank you, for just about 4 years. And I run the automation practice from the development and governance perspective.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Eileen Joyce. I'm the engagement director for the Intelligent Automation Hub, and I really work back on working with the business to understand their demand or their challenges and helping shape up automations from that.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kathleen Roberts. I'm an IT automation manager. I oversee the BSA team and our level 1 support. We work to support our development efforts and also work to support our automation owners.
Thank you, Kat. My name is Senthil Maran. I lead the RPA IT team at GM Financial. Prior to being in the RPA space, I worked in the Oracle space for about 15 years. So I entered RPA around 2020. It's been a pretty exciting journey. I look forward to providing every one of our employees in GM Financial a bot assistant. Thank you.
Fantastic. So these are my friends here for this discussion. And these are folks that actually have something to say on the topic of scaling the program. So they've been part of the automation journey for a while, and they've lived to tell the tale of how to scale. So really, really looking forward to having a discussion with them. So first question. We talked a little bit about this a moment ago. But the challenges of scaling are different as you grow. As you expand, sometimes the challenges themselves change. So the question is, what's an example of a new challenge that you needed to break through to continue scaling your program? And I'm going to start with Donald from Mars.
Sure. So I'd say we were running really well. We were doing about 15 use cases per sprint, and it was going along swimmingly. But the problem was we couldn't break past that ceiling. Right. So we had to go back to our ADLC, which you can see up on the slide, and really just kind of take things that are working but could work better. Right. So we started automating our automations, which I hear a lot at the conference. We started to think about how we could optimize our licenses, optimize our servers, dynamically allocate all of those items. One of the other important pieces with respect to time was making sure that we could take some of our own time back from our customers. Right. So we tried to implement as many self-service items as we could. So dashboarding, automatic opportunity submissions, anything we could so that we could point our customers to an area where all the answers already laid, right, and they didn't have to come to us for 10, 20 questions before we even started a project.
Fantastic. So all about basically making sure that this pattern, this life cycle is clear and clear for your customers as well. So right, when they come in with an idea, they actually have some idea of what to expect in terms of the next steps and what will be delivered?
Exactly.
The other end?
So we've got Visio diagrams for every single person that might be involved in one of our projects, and we can hand it to them and say, this is exactly what you'll need to do across this whole journey. And next time when you come back for another automation or 12,
yes,
you'll do the exact same thing. And so on that second, third, fourth automation, now we're not spending as much time in discovery with Eileen and engagement, but now we can almost accelerate that portion and go straight into designing a solution and getting it into production.
Fantastic. So when you first started your, just curious, when you first started your automation program,
yep,
this was probably not all defined. Did you find it actually kind of accelerated the delivery, just making this path clear?
I would say that parts of it were defined,
yes,
but I would say that we were flexible in working with each of our stakeholders to try and make sure that they'd come back to us afterwards.
Right.
Once we started to build up that credibility and they knew that the solutions that we were building worked,
yes, we
could be a little bit more rigid with our process. And
right,
so we took this opportunity to take kind of a soft reset and look with some introspection and try to determine where our areas of improvement could be, what we're working well, what could be better, and what are things that we just needed to scrap over.
Right, right. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. From GM Financial, Catalina, do you want to comment on this one?
Yeah, so, you know, initially when we started our RPA journey at an enterprise level, projects came in, projects got developed, projects got delivered. But then when we started seeing that there were low complexity projects and everybody had competing priorities, to get the development team, our business automation team, and the business customer in alignment, yeah, we needed to take an approach that kind of gave everybody a guideline to follow as far as what work was going to come next. And so we focused on prioritization. And so recently, we worked with our business automation team and took all of our opportunities for automation and really put them through a calculation which, you know, was weighted shortest job first. And so really what that did was that gave us an opportunity to look at, you know, what is the cost of delay by not delivering this automation, look at the size of the job, and then prioritize that work accordingly.
Right.
That kind of gave everybody the picture of, hey, here's how we're going to pull the work in. And that gave the development team and our BSA team the ability to say, hey, here's what's coming next. While this is in development, we're going to move on and get the next project ready for development. So then that way we can kind of create a cycle of activity that really gives us the ability to deliver efficiently, and then also gives or shares the expectation with the automation owner as to when can they expect to see their product delivered.
Oh, fantastic. I really like this, and the visuals interesting as well. I think one of the things, I would refer to that almost as different delivery channels. So one of the things that's complex and also interesting in our automation programs is just the diversity of use cases. So you can ask yourself the question, like, does it make sense to deliver everything in the same way? Well, no, they vary so much in terms of applications and complexity and effort. So you're basically identifying the fact that maybe we need a different channel for even some of the lower complexity use cases. I think that's one of the things that came out here.
Most definitely.
That's awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so next question is related to pipeline. It's kind of a two-part question. So what creative strategies have you used to keep feeding your automation pipeline? I assume if your programs have scaled so much, you needed to continually ensure that there's ideas in there, but also identify the best use cases, the use cases that are best for automation. So kind of a two-part question. What have you done to keep feeding your pipeline and also continue to identify the best use cases? So maybe, Eileen, we can start with you.
Sure. I honestly think that when you get to this point, it's not that hard to feed the pipeline. We have not done a lot of targeted roadshows lately because people have seen the work that we've done. And when you develop and deploy automations that the business can actually rely on, that drives a lot more business to you. So some of the things I think that help drive that pipeline are maybe the roadshows, like for areas that we haven't talked to yet. So when we do those roadshows, you really want to try and understand, what are the business challenges or opportunities for that team? It's really not about the technology, right? It's more so about the business problem that we're looking to address. Then we try and bring in some ideas that we've done in other areas at Mars. When we first started doing it, I know you heard Adil this morning talk about using heat maps. We went with heat maps, right? Because we didn't have a lot already deployed at Mars. So people had to kind of take a leap of faith with us, right? Now we have a whole catalog of automations across every segment, across every region, across every functional area. And what's even more powerful is when we do these roadshows is when we bring in stakeholders, right? So folks that we develop automations for that come and talk to other folks that are interested in these automations and really hear the impact that that automation has done in their organization.
Amazing.
That really drives it.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's like you're all kind of internal marketers.
Correct.
Right? Relying on word of mouth, and you've built up credibility.
Correct. And so that's the other part of it. When you have, when we're doing our engagements, we really are not just listening like, show me your process, but show me like, what are the outcome expectations, right? So not just, here's steps 1 through 5, but really how often should it run? What happens if it doesn't run correctly? What could we even be doing better?
Right.
Because when these bots get deployed to production, you want to make sure that they're stable, that the team can rely on them, because then they'll come back to do more. We get a lot of I call them repeat customers.
Yeah.
And to me, that means a lot. That means they believe in what we're doing and that they want to do more with us. We actually measure, I know I heard on the session earlier, somebody asked about NPS score. We actually measure our results with our stakeholders on what worked well for them, what didn't work well, and we're continuously looking to improve our process. That ADLC that you showed, I don't know if it's still out, no, it's gone now, but that's really helped us go faster. We try and see then, what happens in the delivery part that slows us down? And is this something we can maybe ask or shape up a little bit better in engagement to help us go even faster?
I love that. I was having a discussion with someone a few minutes ago over a coffee, and sometimes we get really, really busy managing an automation program if we're responsible for it, thinking about all the business processes across the company, and we forget that we ourselves have our own processes. So what you just shared, the actual RDLC process, that life cycle, that in itself is a process that also probably could use some optimization and some reflection to see what we can do to improve it.
Yeah, and the other part of it, sorry, I could probably go on a while.
I was just confirming what you were saying. We can talk for days.
So part of our discovery as the beginning part of that ADLC is we really want to show why it's the size it is. Like Shubha talked earlier, we have t-shirt sizing as well. So, we want folks to understand what's driving the complexity.
Yeah.
We also want them to know whether if it is a good fit for automation, what we're going to do to shape it up to move it to delivery, but if it's not, why it's not. Maybe it's not right now.
Right.
Maybe when that system goes through an upgrade, we'll talk again in a few months.
Right.
But we want to drive the awareness back in the business as well.
You're basically, you're building up the knowledge of how this technology works, what it can do, if there's any limitations within the organization. Wow, so everyone gets a bit smarter about how to do automation.
Well, we hope.
That's the intent. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass this one from GM Financial over to Senthil. Any creative strategies you applied for the pipeline and to identify the best ideas?
Got it. So Mark, when we started with Automation Anywhere back in 2020, our focus was primarily the enterprise automations, which save us somewhere around $50K per annum. And that was a strict criteria that we add for our pipeline.
Yes.
But over the 2 years, we have kind of done most of those automations, and now we are at a point where we had to loosen up that criteria. And now our criteria, we have started this new program called Fast Track, where the intake criteria is a bot that can save anywhere from 5 to 10K per annum. So with that new program, we have seen a lot of excitement. We are seeing a lot more use cases come in that cost savings range. So that's one way we have expanded our capabilities. Another one is our Citizen Bot Builder program, where we are trying to get our business users to build bots. That program was started in 2021. There was there were some initial roadblocks with that program, but to be able to bring excitement to the user community, we have done some events like Botathon, where your team members from Automation Anywhere, like Sandy and folks that are supporting us,
Yes.
they provided us the support to be able to run this event over a 4-day period, where people that didn't have any RPA development experience, they started brand new, and within a 4-day time period, they were able to deliver a bot
Incredible.
that was pretty close to working in production. So when we were able to showcase this to the larger IT community and to the business, that people can deliver bots in such a short window, it brought a lot of excitement. And we are planning to have more of these events next year and bring excitement around
That's
the
awesome.
program.
And these are folks in typical kind of non-technical roles, citizen developers that were experiencing the technology.
Yes, the citizen developers are primarily the people that are in the business areas trying to automate their own functions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know from our own CEO, that's exactly, you know, if you ask him what are the keys to scaling an automation program, that's one of the ones he mentions is it can't stick within a center of excellence. It can't. When you get into the hands of non-technical folks, that's where you know that, you know, you've caught on to something in terms of the ability to scale.
Right.
There'll always be some capacity challenges if you keep it within the center of excellence, the more technical folks. Very interesting. Okay, I like this question. So as you scaled, sometimes the way that you do what we call performance management may also change. So this question's about what are some new ways that we might have started to measure the success of the automation program a little differently. Again, when you have a handful of automations, you might have certain metrics, but then those can also mature and evolve. I'm going to start with Donald again from Mars. If you want to talk to us a little bit about how you started to change the way that you measured success.
Yeah, so I think like many COEs, we probably started in the same spot. We're
Right.
looking at the number of digital workers that we have
Right.
inside of the enterprise. We're looking at how many hours we've automated, trying to think about reduction in SLA, how much quality or accuracy increase we got, all of those types of things. As we started to scale, we had to think about the landscape and what we wanted to do with the technology. So we started to measure how we were performing in penetrating into new markets, into new businesses, into new functional areas across the enterprise. Extremely important for us to be able to do that. And as Eileen had mentioned, one of the things that we've done really well, I think, is we take an automation that's performed well and we go and sell that to other units of the
Love it.
business to show, look, we can just take what we've already built, we can change, modify a little bit of the business logic because of your legal requirements in your market
Right.
or based on your country, and then we can have fast items going into production. We've also done some other ways to measure outside of penetration. So we look at the reduction of incidents.
Okay.
So all of our bots, they log, not only for the human eye to see, hey, I completed this transaction,
Right.
which we have on a bunch of dashboards,
Right.
but also anytime that there are system exceptions along the way, we log a ticket inside of ServiceNow that gets routed to our support team. So we're constantly able to measure what's going on, and we have that direct feedback loop with our support team to ensure that if there is an issue, they can remediate it very quickly.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think just lastly, one item that we did start to track, although I don't know if it's necessarily performance against the COE itself,
Yes.
but one of the items that we track now is utilization. So we actually take the business case that the business brought to us initially during discovery,
Yes.
and we match that, cross-reference it against what the bot does today and what it's done historically to see how your bot is doing against the business case. And then we can go back to the business team and think, all right, is it because we're not pushing enough volume through? Are there too
Fantastic.
many exceptions? Was there actually an uncovered issue inside of the process that we didn't know about?
And that's fantastic. And that's a classic kind of technology thing is we put something into production and we don't necessarily do that. Go back to look at the business case and make sure that we're still getting the value.
Yep.
We call that, one of the things we call in our program is we call that, is the automation being consumed or not?
Yep.
It's one thing to deploy technology. It's an entirely different thing to have people actually using it. Nobody's getting business value if nobody's using it. So I love the fact that you're measuring that. And also this idea of you've deployed automation, maybe so many people are able to use it. How can we get more business value? One way, as you mentioned, is are there other folks that could be using the same automation? We don't need to do any more development, just roll that out more broadly, expanding the footprint.
Exactly.
I love it. Awesome. I'm going to hand that one over as well to Senthil from GM Financial. So as you scaled, some new or different ways that you started to measure success that you might not have measured earlier in the journey.
So when in the beginning, we measured success basically by the number of automations we delivered. Did we deliver like 25 automations, enterprise automations in a year? So that's how we used to measure our success of the program. But lately, we have moved away from that. We have focused more towards like how many transactions did we deliver. And as you can see in the slide, we have delivered close to 10 million transactions over the last year. But then we realized that even that is not the right way of measuring success. So we should be looking more about how many employees did we impact, how many man hours did we save. So that's become the new metric of how we are measuring our success. And you can see that the program has benefited about 700 odd employees at GM Financial, and it has helped us save close to 170K human hours.
Wow.
And that's the focus lately, is from moving away from looking at the bot count to now focusing on the employees benefited and the hours saved. That's the new focus that we are looking at.
Amazing. So question for anyone. How did you know when was the right time to make these tweaks in terms of the way that you're measuring success? Was it, it was an edict from on high in the organization, you need to invent some new performance metrics? Sometimes it happens that way. Or was there any specific event that says we got to be a little bit more thoughtful in terms of what we consider success? Just if anyone wants to take that.
I can take that from Mars.
Sure.
I mean, I think we continue to evolve to talk about success. We started with something that we could easily measure, right? Hours, number of digital workers.
Yes.
Now we've really pivoted away from that too. We want to talk about what the impact is. If any of you went to the Celonis session a little while ago, TJ talked about how you might automate a couple hours in this whole process, and if you take that out on its own, it doesn't sound that great. But when you understand the impact,
Yes.
what it's doing to the whole process, it's a lot more powerful, right? And so we've started to make that pivot more away from the hours. We still measure the hours, but we want to know what the impact of doing this bot is. Is it going to help us reduce cycle time? Is it helping us with our customer service levels? Is it maybe reducing defects, right, in a process where that defect is not acceptable, right? So we've started to make that pivot more and more, and we do have these effectiveness badges that we kind of gamify our benefits as well to say, is this helping reduce time maybe in a financial close period, which are so valuable, right, those hours there? Or is it helping us enforce controls, right? So we're trying to make that pivot, but I think we continuously look for ways.
Yes.
And since we support so many, we support every segment and region and functional area, there's not one way for each business.
Right.
Because they have different things that mean success to them.
Sure. Really interesting. Thanks, Evan.
And if I can piggyback off of that, I think, and like you said, Senthil, we've moved away from counting the number of bots because, you could build a bot, deliver a bot all day.
Yes.
And, but the impact is so important, not just from a business benefit perspective, but also from a support perspective, because we need to understand what the benefit to the business is, but also how have they adjusted their line of work since they've received that automation? Have they reallocated those human resources to other tasks? So when we have a system change or a network outage or a component that impacts the automation, as a support team, we're also able to deliver that information to those supporting infrastructure teams to let them know that, hey, we have a business area that's impacted. They don't have humans that can manually process. So really, it kind of paints the picture, not just for the business process owner, not for the team that delivers the automation, but also for the people who support the components that feed into that automation or that support that business process. So essentially, you're really educating your entire organization of this is what this automation means to the business,
Yes.
but also this is what it means when we have an impact technically that needs to be addressed. This is how we need you to respond faster. We need to make sure that we're testing thoroughly. So, it's not just contained with the business automation owner. It's also within IT that supports not just Automation Anywhere, the network, and all those dependent applications.
Right. No, I love that. And I love, the way the platform itself has evolved to be more touching the actual person and touching the work that they're doing. Impact on things like employee satisfaction. I can't tell you how many people within our company, you deploy an area automation to them, and it's just the experience of interacting with it itself. I know you could argue, how do you quantify that? But it's real. It's palpable, right? People are excited about it. You also, when you were answering that, you also reminded me, when we started out, we were really trying to crank up just getting in ideas. Of course, you want to have a healthy pipeline.
Right.
So we were doing a lot to say, please submit ideas. We had a common intake process where any employee could submit ideas. And then over time, not every idea is a good idea. So we started thinking about, hey, can we measure the quality of our ideas? That's one thing that we've been focusing on recently. So, how many ideas actually evolve into an automation is interesting. And who's submitting the ideas that provide the best business value Is that something that you folks have explored? I don't know, rewarding or incenting people to submit ideas or to submit ideas that turn into automations?
Well, we do, we do have the same kind of process. We look and see how many, I call them conversions, how many ideas come in that we actually convert over
Right.
to digital workers. But we do publish and amplify the success that we see in the business. So
Yes.
we promote them. And I mean, people are so proud of their digital workers, right? They name them, we hear about them, and I'm like, who's Marvin? And they're like, oh, the bot. I'm like, oh, right, that's Marvin. So they get excited about that, and we try and use that to amplify that and congratulate them too, right? Because they're taking a chance too. They're responsible for this business process and the outcomes, right? And they've taken the courage to come and design this with us and develop it and nurture it. So we do measure that, but we also measure then the conversion rate. But we don't look at that as we're not getting quality ideas in. We look at that as driving more awareness, and the toolkits continuously evolve.
True.
Right? Something that maybe we can't do today,
Yes.
we can maybe do in 6 months. So I still want to hear your ideas and your problems because we want to be a trusted business partner.
Wonderful. Yeah, the last thing you want to do is discourage people from submitting ideas.
Correct.
I liken it to brainstorming.
Correct,
I mean, we've had some ideas that have been bananas. We couldn't turn it into an automation, but after a few discussions, you turn it into an automation, right? Sometimes it needs a little bit of ideation, right?
Right.
Interesting. How about from GM Financial?
So yeah, if there's an idea that we think it doesn't meet the value threshold, what we do is we encourage them to sign up for the Citizen Development Program, where they can get that skill set, the knowledge to build their own automation. So that's one way we route them if we feel that, okay, you don't meet the value threshold for the COE team to do the automation, then you can try to build it yourself.
Fantastic, fantastic. No, super, super interesting. Thank you very much for that. So this is a bit of a big question, but I think this is interesting for organizations that have scaled to the extent that you all have. What's your current vision to build on that success, the success you've already seen in the automation program? So I know it's a bit of a big question to ask, but what's next? Maybe we can start with Mars.
Okay. So what next? Well, the immediate next is delivering those 50 digital workers we have in delivery right now, Donald. That's our immediate focus. But it's to continue to partner and understand the challenges, right? The challenge is not going to be the same this year, next year. So you have to continuously reach out, understand what's going on in the business, understanding what's going on in the technology landscape. We heard a lot of new things coming out from Automation Anywhere. So we want to see how we can leverage that to do even more. We want to continue our partnership with our Process Intelligence Hub, right? So getting that intelligence from those tools so that we can actually drive more targeted automations. I mean, TJ again talked about, I know your session's over, but we talked about a partnership with our team where they did an engagement that resulted in 10 automations from that project. What he didn't tell you is those 10 automations came to us and got shaped up within 4 weeks.
Wow.
That's really quick,
Sure.
right? And that's because they had the data. It wasn't going off, gut feeling that, the problem's here and we had to go and try and find that information. The tool gave us the data to take action, right? So what's next would be more of that partnership. It would be more end-to-end process automation, not maybe, a lot of times we do single task within that end-to-end.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
more end-to-end with more tools and more mature automations.
And fantastic. And what you just mentioned, I think, is also kind of an underestimated. When people talk about what does it mean to scale automation, what you just mentioned is an example of how you can scale it. I've got this piece of the process that's automated. What happens before and what happens after?
Right.
That can be a really insightful question. And to your point, I was talking with someone the other day about this. When I joined Automation Anywhere, one of the tools that we were given was a feasibility checklist. Probably most of you have used a feasibility checklist, right? Where
Yeah.
you look at an idea, a potential automation, and you look down and say, is this a good idea for automation or not? I was looking at one of our checklists from a few years ago. It made me very, very proud of what's happened with the product because it's like, we can do that, we can do that, we can do that. I remember a day when we used to say, oh, there's a human in the loop. Oh, that's tough. Well, Airy was born for that kind of situation, right? So very, very, very interesting, just how the product has evolved. How about from GM Financial?
So for us, our vision, gosh, we're very busy right now. So initially when we started the RPA journey, we had hosted automations.
Right.
And then we went on-prem with Automation Anywhere. And then now we're in the middle of a migration. We're standing up our cloud environment for
Yes.
A360. So that's really huge for us. we're very excited about that. And, you know, really with that transition to A360 in the cloud and then, you know, being able to enable components like ARI and Discover IQ and just really kind of expanding how we engage with automation and being able to vet out additional business use cases. I mean, I think, you know, me personally, I feel like for GM Financial, we're just scratching the surface.
Yes.
You know, we haven't really gotten into any AI, any unstructured data use cases.
Right.
And so I think right now, especially with this transition, we're able to kind of lay the foundation and then start entertaining the use cases that will be able to help us scale, but then also taking into consideration not focusing on the number of automations, but focusing on the value of the automations and the benefit to the business process owner. I think we're just really setting ourselves up for success. I would say in the next 1 to 3 years is going to be very important for GM Financial as it, you know, as we, you know, continue our journey, you know, for automation and just kind of break out of this mold of, you know, what we've been doing on-prem and then, you know, utilizing the cloud environment and the additional tools and then even some of the, you know, new capabilities that we heard about this morning.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's just going to be amazing in the next few years for us.
Absolutely. What you just mentioned is interesting, and we've had the same experience. Is sometimes you've got this pipeline of ideas, and then you just go back, whether you do a road show or you just do some meetings and say, did you know you could do this? Again, it's probably overused, but this idea of the art of the possible. Did you know you could embed your automation in the system? And sometimes, like, get ready, you know, 20 ideas will come in. Just when people realize what's possible. And obviously, as the product keeps evolving, that's a full-time job. Going back and taking those new capabilities and, you know, how can we exploit it? In particular, things like embedded automation, they really change the way you think about how the work is actually happening when people can stay within the system that they're comfortable with. Amazing.
Definitely.
One additional question I wanted to throw at the panel, which is, was there ever a time when you felt like the program really needed to be kind of revitalized or re-energized? Maybe you felt like you hit a bit of a sticking point where you lost some momentum and you really needed to take some specific actions to kind of get the energy moving again. The reason I'm asking that is that's a fairly common thing when we've got a program, especially over the years. It was exciting, but now kind of the momentum decreases and we've got to take some actions to boost the momentum again. Anything that anyone wants to take a crack at for that?
Like what I said before, like having botathons
Yes.
is one way of bringing in excitement, bringing in new people, new systems into the ecosystem, and again, putting a lot more emphasis on the citizen development program, where you're giving the tools for them to build their own automations.
Yes.
That's something, again, that's a personal goal for me, is to give every employee in GM Financial a bot assistant.
Yes.
Whether is it in the next 3 years or 5 years, I want to make it happen. We'll see how that goes.
Do you have any ideas? We've had the same discussion. So I love that vision of having every employee have the same area assistant, digital worker. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So that's very, very cool. How
I've
about
been
you,
trying to
Mars?
think about a road bump. I've been with Mars just a little over 3 years now.
Okay.
And it's been nonstop. Every year we've grown like double year over year. So
Wonderful.
I don't know that we've hit a roadmap yet. And I honestly don't envision it. I mean, we have a very passionate team about automation. We love to fix things. I'm telling you that the best automations that we work on are where, and probably Usha's out in the crowd will probably remember this, with tight time frames where we're trying to meet a common problem for Mars, and collectively, us with our delivery partners, with the business, meet and do that. It's exciting, it's crazy, but it's fun to have that feeling of accomplishment.
Sure.
So I don't know that we've seen a roadblock per se. I think it's just a continuous improvement, and I think we have that kind of mindset already. It's not like if we get through these automations, we're kind of done and we can relax. It's always with our team, what's next,
Right.
What else can we do, and pushing the envelope.
Fantastic. No, that's awesome. We've got some time allocated now for questions. So I think we've got a microphone or two that will float around. If anyone's got some questions for the panel on this topic of scale.
Hello, thank you. Hello, very informative. It's Eileen, yes?
Yes.
You brought up the term, I don't want to paraphrase too much. You said hours they're not out, but hours are fine, but business impact is next. Could you define business impact? 2 or 3 examples, maybe?
Yeah, so business impact is probably specific to the particular business. Mars is quite large, right? So It's a lot more than M&Ms. We have a pet segment, we have a veterinary segment. So depending on, the business impact is really dependent on the process, the segment, and the region. So there's not one common thing that identifies that, so it's really working back to understand for that particular business what that is. It might be reducing order touches, right? So you could have something where how many manual interventions are there on an order, and can we reduce that, and what does that mean, right? It could be increasing quality in maybe one of our R&D processes, right? Reducing defects or shortening the cycle time to get material to a particular site. So there's lots of different ways to measure it, but it's very specific to the process and the area.
Right.
Okay, so it could all conceivably be downstream a little bit, like
Yeah.
you have a business area that suffers from, I don't know, turnover
Mm-hmm.
because of the nature of the work.
Yep.
Okay. And the robot's coming in and doing stuff that's not so popular with the people and freeing them up to do more popular stuff.
Yeah.
Turnover starts to go down. Also business impact?
It could be, yeah. I mean, it's really whatever the pain point in the business at the moment, but turnover is quite a common one these days, right? And so is it really, is it helping the team then manage that turnover? Like, is the admin to actually process that a lot, and is there any automation that can help there? So turnover can be, there's lots of different ways I think automation can come in and help, and that's, that particular challenge. You're welcome.
And I think for something like that, it's important that you can always, it's really a cause and effect. When you're looking at those, that you can truly attribute it back to the automation. There wasn't 20 other things that were happening at the same time, right? So, yeah, awesome. Another question for the panel.
Yeah, are
Sure.
you guys doing anything to do end-to-end process modeling or documentation to look at the process as a whole, and then looking for pinch points or putting, ways to minimize those pinch points?
Could you say the question one more time?
Are you guys doing anything around end-to-end process documentation or modeling so that you can maybe run simulations ahead of time to look for pinch points or places where you can implement automation?
Bottlenecks and things like that.
Well, I think that's where the Process Intelligence Hub comes in. So at Mars, we're part of the Intelligent Automation Hub, but we also have the Process Intelligence Hub, and that can really identify where those bottlenecks or pain points. It shows you the reality of the process execution versus what people think is happening,
Exactly.
right? And those tools can really help you focus on driving, sometimes automation, sometimes it's standardization, sometimes it's stop doing something, right? But those tools can really highlight areas where automation can play a significant role.
On the GM Financial side for us, right now, ideas are coming to us as far as problems that the business is wanting to solve, and that's come in via our business automation team. And so right now, with the demand that we have, we really haven't had an opportunity to proactively look at a process and just say, here are some opportunities for some automation for you. Right now, we're looking at, ideas that are submitted in like, hey, I have this, I want to be able to automate this because I need to, our department's having a hard time meeting SLA. And so, the beauty of automation is as long as the application's available, you can have an automation processing as long as it's available.
Right.
And that's beyond business hours for a human worker. And that's even Sundays, holidays, all of those days that normally people are taking off for. And so we haven't gotten into that proactive activity yet. With our business automation team right now, we're reacting to a problem or a benefit that the business is wanting to receive. But when we are engaged with that team, they are doing an end-to-end map of the process, and then here's where the automation can come in, and then even through natural discussion and collaboration, that could spawn additional ideas of what else can you build into this automation? If we're building it already, are there some additional benefit that we can offer through that? But right now we are getting end-to-end process maps, but we're being directed or scoped into what the automation is intended to solve.
Right.
If I can add to that as well,
Cynthia.
we did some POCs with the Fortress IQ. That's the process mapping solution from Automation Anywhere. We've done some pilot, and the results out of the pilot have been very it has created the documentation that we need to be able to understand the process. So we hope to expand on that next year and use that tool to leverage it to build automations that can go from process to from end to end.
And I think that's been true. So we've done some piloting internally with Fortress IQ as well. And we got, like, to your point, we got multiple outcomes. For sure, we got some automation ideas, and we also got some kind of process optimization opportunities coming out of it, which is interesting. So there's different improvement opportunities there, yeah. Thank you. Another question?
Yes. So when you're building a bot, then you go through the hassle of identifying the right process, building the bot, and then it comes maintenance, right? So once the bot is ready and in production, how do you guys make sure that the manual processing still keeps going for all the exception items and there's some accountability on those teams, right? Because you don't want to have them to think, oh, you know, I've already automated this process. Nobody needs to look at it anymore. So how are you driving that?
Great question. So you wanna take-
So for us, you know, for when we get ready to deliver an automation, we actually have a user manual walkthrough with the automation owner. And we go over, you know, here's how you submit an incident, here's how you reset your passwords, update CyberArk if it's unmanaged. But we also include a embedded document of here's what your manual process is. In the event that the automation is not available for whatever reason, you will be required to manually process those items. Just kind of letting them know that there are times where technology fails us, and so we kind of let them know that they're not off the hook. The other thing that we also advise them to do is, hey, don't set it and forget it. You are responsible for validating or doing spot audits for your transactions to help ensure that the automation is still performing as expected, because we're not validating that those transactions are you know, perfect and everything's being handled as it should. We're letting the business know that you are still accountable to spot audit, to report to us if there's any issues with your automation. If your exception rate, we give them some criteria. If you see an uptick in your exceptions, alert us so we can, you know, research this for you. So we kind of let them know that just because you have a bot doesn't mean you're off the hook. You will have to care and maintain your bot because this is your digital worker. It's not our digital worker. We built it for you, but it is your digital worker. So you are responsible just like you are for your human resources.
And what you just said, there's one of the keys to scale. It's not all ours.
Yeah.
Some of it's also yours, right?
Like, we
Yeah.
built it. It's your baby. You let us know.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
we'll be the doctor.
Exactly.
Take the kid.
Give it a bottle every few hours. And
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Because I feel like that's the message that we all share, right? So they tell them we're building this together, it's part of the process, but like when it comes to the actual implementation, like do you have any pointers? Do you have any meetings for them? Like, do you have any documentation, logs? Like,
Yeah.
To make sure they don't just forget about it.
Yeah.
I can take that one. So we have some real-time dashboards for every bot that we deliver. We provide them a dashboard that provides like almost to the minute picture of what the bot is currently working on. It shows them how many transactions it successfully processed, how many it failed. So our business has now got addicted to those dashboards. Anytime they see a lot of error rate in that, they reach out to us, and they do have an understanding there are some scenarios the bot is not going to be able to handle, that their workforce has to be able to take care of that. Along with it, we also provide like summary reports that sent to them at the end of the day that provides like a full picture view of what happened that day and how many transactions they will have to manually process. So we provide these two options for our business, the real-time dashboards and the daily summary reports, and that seems to be working really well with our business folks.
We also do a monthly touch base. So as a production support team, we also, you know, here's what's going on with your automation, or if there are any changes. That's also the time we discuss regression testing for any dependent applications. We also pose to them, you know, and our BSAs are really good at working with our automation owners, are there any concerns with your automations that we need to know about? Right. So not only have we given them the email address, we're approachable on Teams, we're also reaching out to them on a regular basis and asking them to vocalize, are there any concerns? Is there anything we need to be aware of? So then that way we have that open channel of communication with them. And honestly, I feel like that's one of the biggest benefits with our production support is the fact that we have an open communication with them. And then even when we notice that the exception rate on a particular process, we're like, hey, this doesn't seem right, we'll proactively reach out to them and let them know that, hey, we're seeing this, you know, is there something going on, or is there anything wrong with the data? And so that kind of, you know, feeds into that constant communication loop. And I feel like that's also, you know, what we're striving for, to provide that, you know, positive, you know, automation owner
Yes.
experience, because
Yes.
they do become repeat customers if they know that you're going to take care of them.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We have something similar at Mars too, but we created a new role as well called digital worker manager. So at Mars, we all have line managers. So what we talk about this in discovery, we reinforce it through our whole automation development life cycle. The digital worker manager is the manager of that new digital worker we're deploying.
Right.
We have dashboards too that show its utilization, but also when we're in discovery, when we're doing our PDD, we put in there the exception handling process. Sometimes we'll go to an automation, we're not going to go do 100% of it, right? And we're very clear then, and we document that in the PDD, and we get sign-offs, of course, but
Awesome.
we reinforce that role throughout the whole life cycle. And before we go over into our support, through our BGL, we actually walk them through the dashboards and their responsibilities.
Awesome. We're unfortunately we're out of time. We could have this discussion for a lot longer, but just wanted to thank very much Mars and GM Financial for being with us. Thank you for all the pearls of wisdom, and thanks to all of you for participating in the session. Thank you.
Thank you.